The Great Pyramid of Giza contains 2.3 million stone blocks. Each one weighs between 2 and 80 tons. The entire structure was built in roughly 20 years, which means ancient Egyptians moved, shaped, and placed approximately 800 blocks every single day, without cranes, without steel tools, without engines of any kind. For 200 years, historians assumed the answer was simple: slaves, thousands of them, whipped into labor under a brutal sun. That answer was wrong, and the real answer, discovered piece by piece over the last 30 years, is stranger, more human, and more impressive than anything the slave theory ever suggested. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how they did it, and why the real story of the pyramids is not about stone at all. It is about people. In 1990, a horse stumbled near the Giza plateau and fell into a hidden tomb. Inside, archaeologists found something that rewrote everything: the tombs of the pyramid builders, not slaves buried in unmarked graves, workers, named individuals, people with titles, families, and histories, people who were proud enough of what they built that they wanted to be buried beside it. The inscriptions on the tomb walls told a story historians had never expected. These were paid workers, skilled craftsmen, bakers, brewers, doctors, administrators, an entire city of people whose only job was to build the pyramid. Researchers estimate that at its peak, the Giza construction site employed between 20,000 and 30,000 workers at any given time. Not slaves dragged from foreign land, Egyptians, volunteers in many cases, who came from villages across the country to work on what they believed was the most important project in the world. Because building the pyramid was not just construction, it was religious. It was national. It was the act of helping a god become eternal, and the workers who helped do that were honored for it. But honor does not move a 70-ton stone, so how did they actually do it? The first answer is water. Researchers studying the Giza site discovered ancient harbor remains and canal systems stretching from the Nile directly to the pyramid construction area. The Nile was not just Egypt's water supply, it was Egypt's highway. Enormous stone blocks were quarried at Aswan, 800 kilometers south of Giza, loaded onto wooden barges and floated down the Nile during the annual flood season when the river swelled wide enough to carry them. This solved the transportation problem that stumped historians for centuries. The blocks didn't travel overland, they traveled by river, which is why ancient Egyptians scheduled their entire construction calendar around the Nile flood. Flood season, transport. Dry season, build. Every year for 20 years. But getting the blocks to the site was only half the problem. Getting them up was something else entirely.
Here is what researchers found inside the tomb of a pyramid overseer named Jehutihotep. A wall painting showing 172 men pulling a massive stone statue on a sledge, and in front of the sledge, one man pouring liquid onto the ground beneath the runners. That liquid was water. Researchers at the University of Amsterdam recreated this exact technique and discovered something extraordinary. Wet sand reduces friction by up to 50%. A group of workers that could barely move a loaded sledge on dry sand could suddenly pull it with half the effort on wet sand. The pyramid builders were not brutes forcing stone with pure muscle. They were engineers solving a friction problem with the simplest possible solution. And they moved enormous blocks, up ramps, using this exact technique. Teams of workers, sledges, wet sand, and an organizational system so efficient that modern engineers studying it have called it one of the greatest logistical achievements in human history. The ramps themselves are still debated. Internal spiral ramps, external straight ramps, a combination of both. But the principle was the same. leverage, lubrication, and an almost incomprehensible amount of organized human effort. And to sustain that human effort, ancient Egyptians built something almost as impressive as the pyramid itself, a food production system of staggering scale. Archaeological excavations at the worker village found evidence of industrial-level baking and brewing operations. Researchers found enough bread molds and brewery vats to produce food for thousands of workers every single day. The workers received daily rations of bread, beer, meat, fish, vegetables, and garlic. Not survival rations, generous rations, more food than most ancient Egyptians ate in their daily lives outside of construction work. There were also doctors on site. Workers who were injured received medical treatment. Bones show evidence of healed fractures, complex injuries that required professional care. This was not a slave camp. This was a managed, supported, motivated workforce operating at peak efficiency because the people running the project understood something fundamental. A hungry worker cannot lift a stone. A sick worker cannot show up, and a dead worker cannot finish a pyramid. But the food and the logistics still don't explain the most disturbing fact about the Great Pyramid: its precision.
The base of the Great Pyramid covers 53,000 square meters. The four sides are aligned to the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, with an accuracy of less than 0.05 degrees. The base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across its entire 230-meter length. These are tolerances that challenge modern construction equipment. Ancient Egyptians achieved them with plumb lines, set squares, and the stars. Researchers believe Egyptian surveyors used the rotation of the northern night sky to establish true north with extraordinary precision. They observed specific stars over multiple nights, marked their positions, and bisected the angle between them to find the exact cardinal direction. It required patience, calculation, and a level of astronomical knowledge that most people never associate with ancient Egypt. The pyramid is not just an enormous pile of stone. It is an astronomical instrument, a mathematical statement, a piece of engineering so precise that minor errors at the base would have made the entire structure impossible to complete. And they got it right. First try. The Great Pyramid stood as the tallest structure on Earth for 3,800 years. No building surpassed it until the Lincoln Cathedral in England was completed in 1311 A.D. It was built not by slaves driven by whips, by a civilization that understood logistics, engineering, nutrition, astronomy, and human motivation at a level that still astonishes researchers today. The real mystery of the pyramids is not how they moved the stones. The real mystery is how a civilization 4,500 years ago organized hundreds of thousands of people, resources, and calculations across 2 decades and produced something so precise that modern engineers study it to understand what they did right. The stones are just the result. The people are the miracle.